Before you commit to building an expensive table, spend an hour making these simple samples. I'm currently working on a table commission, and I thought that I would share with you these projects that I'm working on that are going to help me and can help you figure out what the correct profiles are going to be for your table project, as well as what are the good finishes. So in this video, we're going to be looking at the profile samples, sample boards, and then building a permanent reference library for your future projects. You might be asking yourself, why should I make anything like this and why does it matter? First of all, of course, it's about choosing a profile for your table edge. Doing these boards allows you to test different finishes and see the results and get a better feel for what finish you may want to use in the end. Also, if you do it with enough time, you'll get to see any kind of color change that may happen between the boards. If you do different sheens, you can also see how the different sheens of the finishes affect the appearance of the wood. And then if your client has any kind of indecision on it, they can see some representation to help guide them to the answer and the choice that they're going to be happy with. Now, one of the benefits of this is that better design decisions, easier communication, you get more consistent results, and it saves you additional expense from making mistakes with your lumber. So I'm doing this because I've received a table commission from a friend of mine. He asked me to make this back in the fall of 2025. And I told him it's going to take several months to make. I hope you're okay with that. He's like, yeah, no problem. I wanted to source the wood, make sure it sat around the wood shop to get acclimatized to our environment before actually starting the work. And now that at the beginning of summer 2026, it's time to get working. Some of the design specifications for the table, it's going to be 30 inches round, a nice profile along the edge, 30 millimeters thick, and it wants to be in black walnut. Now after that, it's pretty much whatever I want to do, but there's things that I want to make sure that he's going to be happy with because these are things that I can help to solve before we get deep into it. Ideally, if you can use the same lumber that you're going to use for the finished project, that's going to be better. The best thing is as you make these samples with both the profiles, doing all the finishing, all the sanding, and then the actual finishing materials. So when it finally comes to doing the project, you're going to be ready, you're going to be set up for it, and you're going to have a lot better chances for success. Now, when it comes to sample sizes, you can do any size you want. Well, earlier on, when I was working with other materials like this white oak, I made these samples in different finishes that I keep around the shop. But the problem with these smaller samples is that, well, they're small, so you don't really get to see how it looks on a larger expanse of wood. So for this particular project, I wanted to make the samples to be a little bit larger. These are 6 inches by maybe 10 inches, something like that. What I wanted to do here is to make different edges or edgings so that I could see how the finish works, how it feels, everything on it. So we've got a rounded over here. We've got a radius here, then this is going to mimic the actual circular edge of the table. Here we've got straight edges, straight corner. So we've got pretty much all the different variations you might have in a table, all in one board so we can see it and feel it together. I've also put roundovers at different diameters so that my friend can see what does it look like from the side profile. Some people like tighter roundovers, some people are more gradual. It all depends, and this is a great way for you to visualize this in person. Now, what finishes should you use? You could use anything that you're interested in or anything that you want. So it's really just a matter of what you want to do. I'm going to show you the samples that I've made and why and what I put on them. And let's start with our first one. And this is kind of where I like to begin. This is my favorite finish of all time, and that is just pure 100% tung oil. It's a perfectly natural product. It is a very easy product to apply. I think it has wonderful, wonderful results, especially like on walnut and cherry. Cherry especially, like over time that cherry just gets deeper and deeper and more beautiful. I'm just totally like ecstatic about tung oil, and especially how easy it is to apply. You basically flood it, wipe it on, let it sit for 15 minutes, and whatever is left, you just wipe it off, and you're done. Super simple, super easy, really a great way to go. Now, the problem is that while you have all this ease and beauty that comes with it, the downside is that it takes a long time for the curing. So between 7 to 10 days between coatings. That's a lot of time between coatings. So if you're in a rush or you don't have the luxury of a month to do 4 coats, you're going to want to look for something else. Which brings us to the flip side. And on the flip side here, I have finished the back side with something called Teddy's. And this is Teddy's polymerized tung oil paste. It's basically a polymerized tung oil with beeswax. Take a little rag it on, and then you wipe it on Again, let it sit for 15 minutes and then wipe it off. It's super, super easy, and I really like the results. This is made by a company called Sutherland and Wells up in Rhode Island. American, local company, really great people, and the product is something that I really, really like. I really like a lot of the range of the Sutherland Wells products. I'm really ecstatic about them. They're super easy to use, and yeah, I can't say enough good things about it. Another product from Sutherland Wells that I typically use, but did not use in this particular examples, is this one. This is their polymerized tongue oils with botanicals, and this is basically a polymerized tongue oil that has citrus solvent as its medium for dispersion. And again, just like the tongue oil, you wipe it on, let it sit for 15 minutes, wipe it off. Really easy to work with. I started using this last year and I really, really like it. It's really fast to use. Unlike tongue oil that takes, a week between coatings, overnight it's ready to go for another coat. And I put them on both sides because I just wanted to save some material. And as you can see on the back here, I have it notated P800, and these also just have softened edges. So basically I just knock the edges off with a sander, and it's a little bit sharper than the rest, but it's also a good representation of how it can look. Now, you can use these samples and just feel. There is a little bit of a difference between the two. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Now, this particular finish, as you can see here, this one has a little more cathedrals in the grain. But now we're moving on to something that's also an oil based. This time it's boiled linseed oil based. And this is a product that's called Tried and True Original. So this is a Tried and True Original. This is a polymerized linseed oil with beeswax. And you basically, it's kind of like a cream gel kind of consistency. And again, you wipe it on, wait 15 minutes, wipe it off. And it has actually beautiful results. This beeswax that's in the linseed oil just really leaves it with a glossy, smooth, like gosh, tactily, the tactile feel, that smoothness is actually really, really nice. Now that it's been over, 2 weeks or so. Ooh. Now this one you can see here was done to P400 grit, and this has 1/4 inch roundovers. So you can see 1/4 inch roundovers here, 1/4 inch roundover on the profile. Gosh, now that I'm rubbing it, I feel very, very nice. It feels very nice. Okay, that's nice. And now we're moving into a little bit more of the fancier. This is the hard wax and oil finishes. This is Osmo Polyx. And Osmo started out as a floor finish in Europe and came here, and it's been really popular for woodworkers. It's got a really easy application, much like all the other ones so far. You basically wipe it on, wait 15 minutes, wipe it off. Gosh, I just love all this wipe on, wipe off. These will come in different sheens depending on what you're looking for, but the finish is very natural. Like this, there's no gloss, there's no sheen. I did take this up to their spec of 240 grit. It definitely has more of a natural wood grain feel. Like I can feel the pores here on the wood grain. It's really, really supple and nice, but there's that tactile feel. It's not like the Tried and True. The Tried and True kind of fills in those pores and glosses over them with the beeswax, whereas the Osmo just kind of lets that come through. So it's really going to depend on what you like. Plus, look at the way the grain, like the way that it shows the grain, that's really pretty too. Like, now this one has 1/8 inch roundover, so just a little bit softer. And then the profile, again, the radius has the 1/8 inch roundover. Now, one thing I'm feeling here is that now that it's been at least 2 weeks since I coated this, I can feel right here in the roundover, it's a little bit rough. I can feel the grain. So Osmo doesn't cover up the grain like the Tried and True. Now, is that good or bad? That's going to be up to you and what your client likes. Let's move on now to another one of these hard wax oils and the true darling of the YouTube world, which is called Rubio Monocoat. So if you watch YouTube woodworking, you've undoubtedly seen somebody on YouTube talking about this. It's basically a 1-coat oil. It's a 2-part oil. You put 3 times as much as this in a mix, and you mix it all together really well, and then you just coat it. You basically just kind of trawl it on. I used a credit card and just trawled it on, let it sit for a while, wipe off the excess. Again, wipe on, wipe off. Really simple. Now, when it comes to Osmo, the specification is 180 grit. So this is taken to 180 grit. This one now has 1/2 inch roundovers. So it's really kind of dramatic as far as the edge profile, which leaves a fairly nice surface, not as grainy as the poly. I don't really feel the pores with the Rubio, but there's a little bit more texture to the Rubio than there is with the tried and true. The tried and true is super slick. Maybe the Rubio is closer in finish feel, yeah, to the pure Tung Oil. But definitely the Osmo Polyx is giving a little bit more texture to it. Now moving on to a little bit more of the urethane type finishes. This is one that I was really curious about. This is the Mohawk urethane varnish, the Rockhard. This is much more of an industrial type finish. These can be wiped on, it could be brushed on, it could be sprayed on. I brushed this on because I don't really have a sprayer. But now we're starting to get a little more sheen. This is their satin, right? A little more sheen and definitely a little bit more of a, for lack of a better term, more of a plastic feel on the hand. Now, it doesn't really feel like plastic per se. Like if I was to rub this, it doesn't feel like that, but definitely you're starting to feel more of a film because, of course, this is a film finish. And we brought this up to 240 grit, and it has 3/8" roundovers. But now with this sheen, you know, for me personally, like, I don't think I like the sheen. Even though this is satin, I think that when we get to these film finishes, I just kind of don't like them. I know a lot of people do, but yeah, there's that. Okay, there's that. And then moving on, now we've got this other finish here. This is General Finishes High Performance, also in satin. This is a water-based polyurethane. Now we're getting to, this is also polyurethane. The interesting thing about this one, we brought this one up to 180 grit as well. This is a water-based polyurethane, which means that you're going to have some issues. Like when I was applying this one, we did get the grain pop because of the water, so the first coating had a bit of roughness to it. Sanded at 220, recoated, and now the feel is much nicer. There's still a little bit of grain that I can feel like with the tried and true, but there's a little bit of that film finish as well. So it's kind of a balance. It's an interesting balance. Again, it's a film finish, so I don't know if I really am down with that. Like there's some pretty sheen. It doesn't have as much sheen as the Rockhard. There are different finishes for different purposes and for different needs. So you're just going to have to go with what works best for the situation that you're in. Now, I didn't make samples of all the finishes that I have. Kind of had to choose which ones are going to be the top performers or the ones that we're really considering. But you could do these samples for any of the finishes you have. Ideally, in the long run, you'll have samples of all your finishes and even different styles of wood so that you can have a good reference. I've also made a couple of these out of Hawaiian koa and cherry. So this is koa, this is cherry. And this one has, the cherry has the Rubio, and this one has pure Tung Oil and the teddies on the back. So again, more samples and different ways of doing it that you can use for your projects. Another benefit over the longer term is that you'll get to see how these finishes age and develop with the wood. So the longer you have it, the more you'll get to see how your future projects may turn up over the long term. So that's another great benefit to making these samples. Now, what about sample organization? As you can see, I kind of made them in similar dimensions, similar shapes, mainly because I wanted to have a uniform look to them, but also so that I could have it in a way where I could stack these and put them like on a bookshelf and have a way to store them easily, right? That's a big concern, is how do you store them? How do you reference them? So I can store them like this, maybe put them on a shelf with some bookends and, you know, make it that way. Now you can also hang them. You can put keyholes in them and hang them. Some things that you also want to do that I think is super important is to put as much information on the back as possible. And you can see here, I've got the type of wood that we have. This particular case, black walnut. I also have the source of the walnut. This particular walnut came from a place called Hern Hardwoods. Then I have the information about what is the finish. So Mohawk Rockhard brushed. So I know that this was brushed on, Mohawk Rockhard. The date that we put it on, 6/4/26. And then this also has a second coat that was done on the 5th of June, 2026. And then down here at the bottom, I've got 3/8" roundover. So now I know it's 3/8" roundover. And the P240 is the grit degree that we took this to. So that way we have a reference on the results of this particular board. And if we want to recreate it or try different variations on it, we'll know exactly what we did this time in order to make those changes. Also, if you have any other notes that you have, I just use marker. Just put it on here. Like if you like the finish, you don't like the finish, you want to make any kind of note or anything about it, just write it on the board, on the back. That way you have one side that has the writing, and then the other side you can see what it looks like clear. Now, some of the things you might want to avoid when making these samples is to forget to label them. If you forget to label or don't label them, then you're going to be stuck after some time not knowing what it is. You might think to yourself, oh, I'll remember. You probably won't. Like, I know I'll do that and I won't remember. And another thing you want to consider is as your samples age, right, as they get older and further away from the date that you did them, they're going to change. It's a good idea at some point in time, especially if you want to know a more relevant to that time period, you may want to update these in the future. Just make sure that you put those notes on your board so that you'll know exactly how you did it, so that in the future you want to do it again, it'll be a lot easier to follow. And now you might be saying, well, it's great that you did all these samples, but like, how can I do that? It's kind of expensive. And I hear what you're saying, because like, let's say this tried and true, when I bought it, $27, the Rockhard, $38, the Rubio Monocoat is $20 for this, and then $13 for that. General Performance High Satin, $30. Tung Oil is $30. This big Osmos, $55. And then when you finally get to the big, like let's say the Botanical, it's like $70 for the quart. So it's certainly not cheap to make a collection of these samples. But if you're like me, I've been buying these finishes over time, not all at once, just slowly over time. Every project I'm trying a different finish. And now that I've got all these finishes after 2 years of collecting them, now I can make these a lot simpler. So use what you have, or maybe just buy what you think you're going to use. The great thing about making these samples is that they remove the guesswork from the furniture pieces you're going to make. And over time, like I said, you don't have to do this all at once. Over time, you'll be able to build yourself a personal reference library that will make all of your future projects much easier. So what about you? Tell me, what edge profile do you prefer? Do you have a finished sample library, or do you just make tests for every project? So let me know what you think, and share with me your favorite finish and profile combinations down in the comments. Love to hear more. Thank you very much for tuning in, and see you next time.